I'm going to show you my 3 favorite recipes. We are going to start with a chewy, fudgy chocolate brownie. That secret ingredient is sweet potatoes. And then we are going to make an apple caramel dip that's sweetened with dates instead of sugar. And lastly, I'm going to show you my pumpkin cookies, and we're going to make them 2 different ways. So let's get started with our brownies. First thing we need to do is cook our sweet potatoes. So to do that, I'm going to go the easy route, and I am going to put them in the microwave. I'm just going to poke them with my fork to release some steam. I'm going to put them into a baking dish, and I'm going to add just a little bit of water so that they steam while they cook a little bit faster. While those are cooking, let's mix up the rest of our ingredients. We need 2/3 cups of maple syrup. And we're talking about the real maple syrup, not the high fructose kind. To that, we're going to add some nut butter instead of using regular butter, and the nut butter I'm using is almond butter, but you can use any nut butter that you have on hand. It will add a little bit of a different taste. I love to use nut butter in recipes that call for butter, like cookies or brownies, because it gives a nice fudgy texture, it adds more protein, and it's a healthy fat. We're going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and I need 1 tablespoon of non-dairy butter. I'm going to use Country Crock plant butter today. And I'm just going to guesstimate on this. We just need a little bit for flavor. Let's stir that all together. Okay, those are our wet ingredients. Let's set this aside and get together our dry ingredients. We need a 1/2 cup of cocoa powder, just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a whole teaspoon of baking powder. I like to use the non-aluminum added baking powder. And we need 2/3 cups of flour. We could use oat flour, we could use white flour. But today I'm using oat flour. It's a whole grain, it's a little healthier than just using plain white flour. All right, that's ready. Let's set that aside, and let's go ahead and chop up some pecans to put on top. I like to chop these. Typically I would toast them in the oven, but they're going to toast on top of the brownies, so they'll be fine that we don't have to toast them. All right, that looks perfect. My sweet potatoes are cooked, so I'm going to go ahead and mash them up and get them ready to go into my brownies. I only need about 1 cup of mashed sweet potatoes. Let's add the sweet potato to our wet mixture. Sweet potatoes are considered a superfood because they're super high in A vitamins. They're high in fiber. They even have protein. In fact, this brownie will have about 4 grams of protein per serving. It will also have a lot of dietary fiber, which is missing in most American diets, and will help you to be healthier and have good gut health. Let's add in our dry ingredients. Oops. Goodness, I'm always so messy. Just in a hurry to get my brownies done, I guess. Makes a nice thick batter. It'll be good and fudgy. All right, I think that's what we need. Let's add that to our pan. These look so good. All right, let's clean out the rest of this. I'm going to sprinkle on some pecans. I like pecans. And I'm going to sprinkle on some chocolate chips. And those are going in the oven. To make the apple caramel dip, I use the fresh medjool dates. These are usually soft and juicy, but I've had mine for a little while, so they're a little bit harder than they need to be. I'm going to show you how I refresh those, make them nice and juicy to make a really good dip. I'm using 15 dates. I just add some boiling water on top of these and let them soak, and they get nice and soft and juicy. Once your dates are soaked, you want to drain the excess water out of your dates and then put them into your food processor. You can use a high-speed blender for this, but I like a food processor. I think it's easier to clean. Then we want to add a teaspoon of vanilla. We want to add a 1/2 cup of coconut cream, and that is the solid parts of your coconut milk. And just blend that until completely smooth. You want to scrape down the sides. You can adjust the thickness of your dip by the amount of coconut cream you add. You can taste it and see how sweet it is. If you think it needs to be a little bit sweeter, you can add about a tablespoon or so of maple syrup. It's good. I'm going to add just a tablespoon of maple syrup to mine. It all really depends on your dates. I think my dates were a little bit older, and so they are not quite as sweet. And I also just want to add a pinch of kosher salt. That's more than I needed. All right, let's blend it one more time. This is looking just like it's supposed to look. And that's going to make a delicious apple dip. That looks fantastic. Let's get started on the pumpkin cookies. We are going to make those two different ways. We're going to make a great fall twist on a chocolate chip cookie, but we're also going to turn those into a frosted pumpkin cookie, both fantastic for Thanksgiving or any fall holiday. Let's start by adding 1 stick of plant-based butter to your mixer. You could also use a stand mixer for this. I'm using Country Crock plant butter, and then we are going to add in our sugars. I am doing a half a cup of brown sugar and a 1/4 cup of white sugar. That brown sugar is a nice fall flavor, but it also makes your cookie chewy. So I'm adding that, and here's a little known fact. Did you know that pumpkin was a great egg replacer? I did a video not too long ago and tried all the different egg replacers, and pumpkin turned out to be a fantastic egg replacer. So in my typical chocolate chip cookie, I'm just replacing the egg with pumpkin. And then we're going to add some pumpkin spices a little bit later. So let's go ahead and add in our pumpkin. Now I'm just going to get that mixing up. You can scrape down the sides every once in a while, but you want this to be nice and fluffy and very well mixed together. I'm going to go ahead and add just my dry ingredients right on top of this. So we're starting with a cup of flour, and we do another half cup of flour. We're going to add in some baking powder and just a pinch of baking soda. And lastly, we're going to add our fall spices. We're going to add in a teaspoon of cinnamon and also a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. In case you're unaware, pumpkin does not taste like pumpkin without the pumpkin pie spice. That's why you can easily replace your egg with pumpkin, because it really adds no flavor. But today we're adding pumpkin pie spice to our chocolate chip cookies. All right, let's get that a mix. And that's our cookie dough. We are going to go ahead and take half of it out so I can make half without chocolate chips and show you how to do some iced pumpkin cookies. But then I'm going to do half as a pumpkin chocolate chip cookie. I'm going to just cut that in half. And this half I'm going to leave plain, and the other half here I'm going to add some chocolate chip cookies. There's our chocolate chip cookie dough. I like to chill my cookie dough before I use it in a cookie. So I'm going to stick this in the refrigerator for a little while. You can actually stick this in the refrigerator for several days and have fresh cookies any day you want them, or stick them in the freezer and do the same. So that's a great way to have cookies on hand whenever you need them. I'm going to go ahead and bake up a small batch of cookies and leave the rest in the refrigerator so I can make fresh cookies whenever I want them, because fresh cookies are always the best. These are the chocolate chip pumpkin. What I love about using pumpkin as an egg replacer is it does give a nice golden color to the cookies. Plus these have all the fall flavors that you love with pumpkin, with cinnamon and pumpkin pie spice. These are not spread quite as well as a cookie with eggs in it, so I flatten them just briefly so that they can flatten easier in the ovens. Our brownies and cookies are done, but I want to give a taste of this apple dip. It's very similar to the dip that you buy at the store, the caramel dip. It does not taste exactly like caramel because it does have a nice date flavor, but I love that about it. This is a super good healthy treat. Everybody's gonna love it. Oops. I forgot to make the I forgot to make the icing. Forgot to make the icing. To make the icing, I used about a cup of powdered sugar, and I added in a tablespoon or so of unsweetened vanilla almond milk, and also a tablespoon of the Country Crock plant butter, and that made our frosting. And I simply just dipped my cookies into the bowl to frost them. We also have our pumpkin cookies. We have the chocolate chip version, and I also iced the plain ones, so they make a delicious treat as well. And let's cut into our brownies. So you're ready for your holiday party. Let's try our sweet potato brownie. I know you've heard this before that, oh, nobody's going to know it's going to be healthy. But I'm really, really honest with you. There's not anybody who's going to realize that this is a sweet potato brownie. It's so good. If you're just going plant-based or just trying to eat a little healthier, I do have a downloadable PDF in the description box below. It's the ultimate guide to going plant-based. You can download that. There's some great recipes there. And make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be making some great Thanksgiving recipes that you are not going to want to miss. These are so good.